Moral reasoning. Distributive justice involves deciding how to distribute a limited amount of resources among a group of deserving people. This is usually assessed using a reward allocation task. In a typical study, a group of children perform a task together for which they are to receive some sort of payment. Up to about 4 years of age, children's reward distribution is characterized by self-interest. They tend to take a large portion of the earnings for themselves, regardless of the amount of work they contributed. By 5 to 6 years of age, children begin to divide rewards according to an equality principle, with all children receiving the same share, whatever the input. By 7 years of age, children start to use equity as a bias for reward allocation. Children who do more work are given more of the reward, although not always in the correct proportions. Children's understanding of distributive justice is influenced by situation variables. For example, they tend to give more rewards to those they consider to be in greater need or to those they see as kind and helpful. Children from more collectivistic cultures are generally more egalitarian in their distribution of rewards compared to those from more individualistic cultures. For instance, in a collectivistic culture, children might ensure that everyone in a group gets an equal share of a treat, regardless of how much each person contributed to earning it. In contrast, children from individualistic cultures might be more inclined to give larger shares to those who worked harder. Additionally, if children believe they will interact again with someone who has done relatively little work, they tend to use the equality rule to reward this person rather than the more advanced equity rule. For example, if a child knows they will play with a classmate again tomorrow, they might share their toys equally today, even if the classmate didn't help clean up to maintain a good relationship for future interaction. Children's concepts of justice has also been examined to understand how they assign blame or responsibility known as the concept of retributive justice. Even young children approach this problem in much the same way as adults. When presented with a story about a character who broke a rule, both children and adults first examine whether any harm or damage was done. If no harm occurred, they typically do not pursue the issue of responsibility and justice. However, if damage is perceived, both age groups then try to determine whether the character was responsible. If no blame can be assigned, punishment is usually not considered necessary. If the character is deemed responsible for the harm, both children and adults then consider whether punishment is warranted and if so, how much. Although children's approach to punishment situation may be similar to that of adults, they predict that adults will handle the situation differently. For example, when children were presented with stories where a character had bad intention and caused a bad outcome, they rated the character's behavior negatively. When asked to predict how adults will evaluate the behavior, children believe that adults will also view the behavior negatively, but will focus more on the outcome of the bad behavior than on the character's motives and will evaluate the behavior more harshly than the children did. This suggests that children's moral reasoning in situations involving responsibility for damage is not simply an imitation of what they expect from adults.